All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us here for another Studio C70 interview ahead of the May 18th election. My name is Sandy Vogel, and I'm a current Buccholz Fellow with the Committee of 70. Today, I'm chatting with George Twardy, who is running for Philadelphia Municipal Court Judge in the Democratic primary. Thank you so much for sharing your time and joining us, George. Why don't you start off by telling us about yourself?
Okay, well, thank you, Sandy. My name's George Twardy, and I'm a candidate for Municipal Court Judge. I let you know a little bit about me. I'm originally from the Overbrook section of Philadelphia in West Philadelphia, and I presently live in Fishtown with my wife. I'm honored to have been appointed in June of 2020 by the governor and unanimously confirmed by the Senate as a judge of the Court of Common Pleas. But I typically get asked the question, well, if you're an appointed judge for the Court of Common Pleas, why are you running for municipal court? Well, it's because prior to becoming a judge, being appointed as a judge, I spent 30 years practicing law, taking on both civil and criminal cases, fighting for regular people. My clients were primarily business or partnerships. They were mostly people, and people that needed an advocate to fight for them, whether it was the wrongfully accused or people victimized by negligence or an overbearing landlord, or people subject to discrimination. I maintained a small practice. At times I've had multiple offices, but mostly and primarily, and since 1992, my office has been located in the Chinatown section of Philadelphia. So I was kind of community based, and most of my clients were from the neighborhood. I would typically, along the way in my 30 years, help people that could not afford an attorney. And a lot of that contact and representation of clients was with the municipal court. The municipal court is known in the city of Philadelphia really as the people's court. It's where most cases start and begin, except for major civil cases, juvenile cases, family matters, which is frankly where I'm currently sitting as a family court judge. And, my background of representing people and fighting for people just simply needed an advocate to fight for them. It has been the People's Court. And so over 30 years of practicing law, I've done well. I've gained a lot of experience and come across a lot of creative ways to help people where the process begins and before it starts to spiral out of control. And I thought one of the best ways for me to give back publicly in the latter part of my career would be serving as a judge for the municipal court, the People's Court in Philly. And that's where I think you can help people from getting to the Court of Common Pleas matters. And I am recommended by the Bar Association, Philadelphia Bar Association. I was extremely vetted. I was vetted by the governor's office prior to my appointment, which I took because that was an opening. And I thought it would help me also gain even further experience. In the past, I've served as a custody hearing officer, a truancy hearing officer. And that was one of my, frankly, I talk about my truancy hearing officer days because it was really a small part of my career and mostly a part-time portion. But it was truly rewarding. It was a job where I simply taught kids the simple, most important thing about attending school each and every day and on time. And this also blends into why I actually am running for municipal court. I, as a kid, was not a good student. I had a learning disability called dyslexia. I didn't read real well. I didn't comprehend. I was ridiculed by my classmates, bullied, and I didn't like school. And I certainly never thought that I would be a lawyer. I wanted to run from that from that profession. But I fortunately had a couple, my parents stayed on top of me, tried to get me help. And one day, late in my high school career, late, probably halfway through my junior year, a light went off that I needed to knuckle down because I needed to get a college degree. And, you know, I had a little bit of athletic ability, so that helped me as well. But, and now I've been a lawyer for 30 years, I got a law degree, a master's in business association, and now a judge. And I would share that to the kids at Strawberry Mansion High School because I never thought about anything more than my foot in front of me. I never thought about what I remember being asked by a prep school guide, admissions headmaster, what do you want to do after you get out of high school? And I said, get a job in a gas station. And of course, my mother was like, oh gosh, how do you say that? And I was oblivious as to why that was a problem. But of course, my mother explained to me that, you know, this is a prep school. You're supposed to want to go on to college. But I, of course, was interested in the school because it had a good football team. But my point is that I would share that with kids because I don't think my story is unique. And I would try to open my heart up to the kids and maybe appeal to them that they may not like school, but it's one of those things you knuckle down, you can do it to achieve perhaps something and get them to think beyond high school. So that was like that was a very inspirational part of me. And like I said, it relates to me wanting to run for municipal court because it's everyday people and coming up with creative ways to try to solve problems or issues.
Yeah.
I kind of went on a little bit there, but
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your experiences and connecting it to why you're running for Philadelphia Municipal Court Judge. And in that time of experience, you've previously served as the chair of the GOP in Haverford. Can you tell us a little bit about why you're choosing to run as a Democrat here in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I was actively involved in my life in the Republican Party, and you know, my father was a judge in the city of Philadelphia. He was a traffic court judge for 30 years. He was a Republican. I registered Republican. Kind of never thought about the ideals of things. It was just kind of a team jersey. And I got active in Haverford Township and rose to the level of chairman, and it got very acrimonious. About 2008, my term was up as chairman, and I decided not to run again or seek that position. And, you know, because of all the acrimony. And I stayed and remained in Haverford till about 2014, when our two children had gone to left the nest and went to college. And my wife and I thought, let's move to the city. We both work in the city, move close to my office, which is about 10 minutes away by car, which was in Chinatown. And I started to reflect on my life and my involvement in politics. I was a township commissioner. When I ran for office, the things I supported, and the ideas that I believed in, and I saw the Republican Party moving to my right, not to the left. And I didn't see myself, I didn't idolize with that anymore. I felt foolish waving the Republican flag for all those years when things that I was supporting, I really didn't believe in. And I remember a good friend of mine, a good Democrat friend of mine, who supported me when I was a candidate for commissioner, which kind of like started the light to go off in my head when he said to me, he goes, what do you have that tort reform sign on your lawn for? And I kind of like, what are you talking about? And I had a George Bush sign on my lawn, and it didn't occur to me then until that, yeah, well, of course, the George Bush and the Republicans were essentially anti-lawyer, blaming lawyers for everything. And I said, here again, I'm supporting a party that doesn't believe in the things that I do. And then other issues, other social issues, gay rights, women's rights, and then Donald Trump. He was not a president that I could support, and so I decided to change my registration to Democrat. And so I kind of see myself, changing parties is getting older and reflecting more upon the issues and the principles behind a party as opposed to a team, which is what I only focused on, I think, in my younger days.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that journey and those reflections that I think some of our listeners and people watching might also be able to relate to, and reflecting on maybe not being as much of a team player, but reflecting on really on the values and the platform and the policies more so. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, I tried to give you the real maturation of how things happened.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's been, a recent Inquirer story about me, which was nasty. And if you want, I can address that. I was, first of all, the actions regarding that matter were 18 years ago. Since then, I have been, when I applied for evaluation by the Bar Association, all of that information in detail, in addition to the grand jury report, were provided to the Bar Association, and it was thoroughly vetted. Spent hundreds of man hours talking to witnesses, going through it, because it's very nuanced. And in 2 occasions, the Bar Association recognized the political acrimony that drove a lot of what was said in that report, the fact that I was never charged with a criminal act or a ethical violation, the fact that that at all times I acted in what I believed was in the best interest of the citizens, of the taxpayers, not the developers. I don't represent them. I wasn't elected to represent them. I was elected to represent the citizens, my constituents. And it's been noted that I acted on my personal political benefit. Well, and that I admitted that. Well, that's partly true. I told the grand jury that why I was so motivated to promote and advocate for the developer that was chosen unanimously on 3 separate votes by 9 different commissioners, who half of which are my adversaries, is because I wanted to do a good job for the township. It was a big issue in the township. It was a big issue in all of Delaware County. And I certainly had political ambition, yes. But I wanted to do, how do you get that? How do you get that benefit, that recognition, unless you do a good job? And that's always what drove me. Now, did I make some naive political mistakes along the way? Was I aggressive in doing so? I was. But I didn't commit a crime. I didn't commit an ethical violation that I was cited on. And, we talk I've been running all around the city of Philadelphia, running for election. And everywhere I go, it's criminal justice reform. And it's things like this. People not being able to redeem themselves because of their past, people being blocked from a bright future because something they did years ago. Society casting you in a permanent light, no matter how much you've changed. And, you know, I can't think of a person more, I guess, intertwined with that true feeling and knowing how that is, that's running for office right now, except me. I mean, I didn't commit a crime, and yet I have to deal with something on the internet for the rest of my life. If I had committed a crime, if I was prosecuted for something, I might be able to have it expunged at this point. So we need grand jury reform, and there's nobody better than I that knows it. So the point is that, you know, it sounds juicy and it's sensational to put in a newspaper article that, you know, scandal and all this other stuff, but, and then changes his registration. Well, you know, it may be convenient, but the facts are the facts. And the governor's office, what was left out of that article is the Bar Association on two occasions. And this is not some sort of, you know, I was vetted by a district attorney that is assistant district attorney was highly reputable and known for, you know, not bending if someone had made some sort of misstep that he would prosecute. So I have gone through all this vetting. And at some point in time, we have to let go and move on. And my reputation for the last 18 years, for the last 30 years, to my devotion to the practice of law and my clients, my reputation amongst my peers and amongst the judges has been impeccable. And that's why I'm recommended. That's why the governor appointed me. That's why the Senate unanimously confirmed me. And, you know, an article from the Inquirer that perhaps took about 15 minutes with some sensational quotes shouldn't be able to tear that down. And I think that's what the people want to change here. And that's why I think I'm uniquely qualified to serve in the People's Court.
Thank you for being forthcoming and sharing that. You led into some of my other questions, which was mainly, what are some qualities that you have that you would bring to your courtroom, and some of the things that, some of significant life experiences that you think voters should know about. But I want to make sure there's also a chance to talk about implicit bias in the courtroom and the court system, and how you as a judge approach implicit bias. I think that's a really important question that we've been trying to ask almost all of our municipal court judges. So I want to give you a chance to share that as well.
Well, you asked a compound question there, counsel. And, you know, there were three different ways, but let's start with the implicit bias. You know, we're all just kind of, I have just been, I guess within the last few years, becoming aware of it. And, you know, when you sit there as a judge, you know, you try to make the best decision and fairest decision based on the evidence that's before you. And you have a tendency to rely on perhaps some of your own life experiences, which I've had a lot. Okay. But, you know, I haven't had all the same experiences as the people before me. And certainly there are implicit biases that relate to race. There's also the gender. I found myself in that situation recently where, in a case where there was a mother and a father that had a child before me, and they were fighting over things. And one of the parents was struggling with a substance abuse. It was the mother, and you know, and it was a young child, and I was thinking like, well, I was having difficulty with that because I have perhaps. Growing up, I came from a family where my mother was pretty much an intact family, but my mother was pretty much primary caregiver. I mean, she did everything, and I kind of felt that was a problem. I was struggling with, And I would step back and try to reverse the roles. Those are some of the things that, and I would look, it's complicated. It takes time. It takes continued courses. Unfortunately, the Judicial Education Committee does quite many of those where you can get on and actually think about it. But it's a complicated subject. At least for me, it's complicated to recognize that that's the case. So I think the idea is to keep your cool, step back, and say, okay, this is kind of how I'm seeing things. How could I, what kind of things might I not be missing, and continue on with training to help you be more aware of those kinds of things. So that's my answer to that. You had a couple other questions. I don't know.
No, you've addressed a lot of the questions I had planned to ask, and I appreciate that. So to wrap up, and I want to be respectful of your time as well, is there anything else you'd like to share with voters and viewers today?
Yes, that I would say that, my experience of 30 years of representing people all throughout the Commonwealth, and the types of cases that you'll hear as a municipal court judge, I think uniquely qualifies me to be a fair and impartial judge, and someone that spent a life caring about people. I told you before that I never really wanted to be a lawyer. I remember going interviewing with the dean of the law school, and he looked at me and he says, "Do you like people?" Like, what do you mean, do I like people? I'm a person. Sure, I like people. And I really didn't know what he meant by that. And I didn't want to be a lawyer because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had gotten an MBA degree, and none of the curriculum that I had gone through, I could see applying to real life. And as I went through the law school, I started to learn a curriculum that taught me how to solve problems, or to address problems, or the fight for oneself. And it's been my love for 30 years. And I stumbled across that. And so, I just think that makes me uniquely qualified to serve as a municipal court judge, because I think we need more judges that care about people. And that's been my life. In social settings, people would ask me, "What do you do for a living?" That didn't know me, like parties or something. And I used to tell them I'm a social worker with a law degree, so because that's kind of been my life. So, yeah, I mean, so my campaign pledge would be to bring more compassion, to apply my 30 years of experience to help come up with creative solutions in the cases and the people that come before me in municipal court, to help not bog down the Commonwealth Court with cases that perhaps shouldn't be there, to understand that people's past sometimes can be redeemed.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that as our final kind of the culmination for our interview, and for sharing why you're uniquely qualified. I appreciate that. And thank you so much again for joining us. For everyone watching, and for everyone who views this video later, to learn more about the candidates and the upcoming election, please visit ballot.70.org. You can build your own ballot to save and bring with you to the polls, or when filling out your ballot to mail in. And don't forget that May 11th is the last day to request a mail-in ballot, and the election is May 18th. Make a plan to vote in person, or make sure your ballot is received by May 18th. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you again, George.
Thank you.